So, the relative anonymity of city nightlife and the fact that people who see your nocturnal self are strangers who don't know your daytime version of yourself provides the opportunity for young people to publicly explore their own sense of themselves while transitioning to adulthood. And this anonymity can also emancipate us from our everyday selves as we experiment with new modes of self expression and identity formation without consequence for our established reputations or our daytime portrayals of ourselves. It's like teenagers who are trying to figure out where the boundaries and lines are drawn in social life. They sometimes get into trouble and make mistakes, but there's less consequences when experimented with at night. Participation in nightlife presents youth with an environment to experiment with various styles of public behavior and is one of many outlets we have in our culture through which youth can express and mold those gradually emerging elements of their adult selves. So, other outlets in our culture through which youth can mold those gradually emerging elements of their adult selves include fashion and cosmetics and or sports or music or dancing. Like these are all tools that young people have available to them to experiment and play with potential identities and styles of self and styles of public behavior in, like I said, a relatively low risk, low consequence environment. And nightlife is one of those outlets that provide them with an opportunity to perform an identity and a nocturnal identity that could potentially become part of their daytime identity. But that night environment allows for the performance of a nocturnal self for an audience of anonymous strangers. So, like I said, there's no pressure there. The people who see you during the day and know you during your everyday life aren't the same people, aren't the same audience that you're performing in front of during nightlife. So that the entertainment zones, the nightlife spaces of any city are kind of like I said, an amusement park for emerging adults, a playground where nocturnal roles can be rehearsed and social skills can be practiced. Like a lot of public social skills involving impression management and convincing others to do things for you are built and developed during nightlife, and then they can be wielded during the day too. It's a place for testing our self-confidence and, of course, an environment where a wide variety of rituals in the form of games can be initiated. So that these nightclubs and restaurants and lounges are like the stages upon which young people learn to perform certain aspects of their social identity, which allows for young adults to pursue selfhood and develop their own unique sense of individuality through role playing and the adoption of masks. So, this transition is a stage of emerging adulthood. It's an elongated process of gradual development in which college aged youth spend their late teens and early 20s or late 20s or early 30s exploring life's possibilities through role experimentation and an increased exploration of various lifestyle possibilities and potentially sexual preferences or even career aspirations. A lot of things you discover and find out about yourself and develop inherently can be done so through nightlife. So active participation in nightlife presents youth with opportunities to experiment with various styles of public behavior and strategies of impression management. So nightlife is a very important rite of passage for many young people as they transition and develop into adults, which leads me to the question of, with nightlife being canceled for the past better part of 2 years, do you think that stunted your growth in any way? Because nightlife is one of the few opportunities afforded to young people to develop certain skills and develop certain aspects of their own identity. So that if you don't have this outlet available to you during that formative period of your youth, does that mean that these aspects of oneself could be stunted developmentally. Like I said, nightlife is one of many uh, avenues in our culture for youth to tease out aspects of themselves. Others involve, like I said, music and sports. So, does the lack of nightlife over the past 2 years result in a concomitant increase in those other aspects of youth life? Have a bunch of people gotten into music and athletics now in lieu of nightlife not being available? I'm curious to hear your opinion and your experience. Maybe you're at the age where you did have some opportunities to go out and explore nightlife before the pandemic canceled all that, or maybe you're of the age where you've never had that opportunity yet. Maybe you turned 18 during the pandemic and couldn't legally celebrate in the typical ways that youth are authorized in our culture to celebrate that passage into adulthood. And this isn't necessarily to say that everyone is missing out, because when I was that age, there wasn't a pandemic going on, so I had every opportunity to go out and pursue nightlife, but I rarely chose to. It's just that wasn't my chosen outlet to pursue this rite of passage. I pursued more academics and other things like comedy and other things through which I developed my adult identity and my adult self without needing to do it through this nocturnal self of nightlife, but to each their own. Everyone's mileage may vary. And I'm just curious to hear about your opportunities to pursue nightlife or lack thereof, and how do you think that's affected your development of social skills and social identity?